Welcome to Judges Training for Prince George's County History Day. Thank you for your commitment to make this experience great for our students. We will cover the topics of judges' responsibility, themes, and project types, rules, evaluation resources, interviews, and how to use zFairs. Judges' responsibilities. Before we review judging responsibilities, here is an overview of how the process works for the Prince George's County contest. Teachers or schools hold a contest in their classroom or school and submit their top 2 projects for each category. Those projects are organized into judging groups for round 1. Most categories will have 2 judging groups. Each judging group is evaluated by 2 to 3 judges. The judges provide feedback and rank the projects virtually. The projects ranked 1 and 2 will be moved to round 2. These projects, usually around 4, will be viewed by judges and new feedback will be provided also virtually. The students who created these projects will be interviewed in person. Then the judges will rank the projects in person. Students from the projects ranked 1 and 2 will advance to the state competition. If you committed to round 1 judging, you will be responsible for providing feedback independently and determining project ranking with your fellow judges. Individual feedback must be completed by February 11th so that rankings can be submitted by February 12th. Rankings can be determined via Zoom or over email. The first judge listed in zFairs should create a group email to discuss ranking dates. Please be respectful of everyone's work style and schedule. If you don't hear from your fellow judges by February 7th or 8th, please email me. Round 2 virtual judging is done independently. Judges will be able to view the round 2 projects, around 4 to 6 projects, in zFairs. Most likely you will be familiar with 2 of the projects and 2 will be new from the other judging group. There will not be a rubric form to fill out in zFairs, so a Google Doc will be shared with the group when assignments are announced. The second part of round 2 is an in-person event. We're trying something new this year. It will occur in the evening on February 26th. Judges will report around 5:15 to Kenmore Middle School. We will do a brief meeting to review judging responsibilities. Then judges will go to their category rooms to interview students one at a time. Interviews will be around 10 minutes for each project. Once interviews are complete, judges will have about an hour to complete the ranking of their projects. Final rankings can be completed by judge number 1 in zFairs or sent to me. The goal is to have everyone done by 8:15 to 8:30. It will be helpful if PGCPS employees bring their laptops. The 2026 theme and project types. This year's theme is Revolution, Reaction, and Reform. Students' projects can revolve around 1, 2, or all 3 of these terms. Please watch the video on the slides when you have time to gain a full understanding of the theme. The theme should be woven into all portions of students' projects. The project options for History Day are exhibits, websites, performances, documentaries, and papers. All students submit their project, a process paper that describes their research experience, and an annotated bibliography for the judges to view. Rules for History Day. It is always our goal to provide feedback to all projects regardless of the quality of work. If you are unsure of a rule violation, please email me. While disqualification is rare, keep in mind that rule violations can influence ranking. For example, a project without a word count is a violation that can be easily fixed and probably won't change your ranking of the project. An example of where it may affect your ranking might be a website made in a platform other than the required Web Central. This would take the student a significant amount of time to fix and may drop it in ranking. Rules that apply to all categories are that the work must be new for this school year. It must relate to the theme. They may not have any prohibited materials like weapons, animals, or live cultures. There are automatic disqualifications like entering multiple categories, using a project from a previous year, tampering with others' projects, or complete plagiarism. Please contact me if you feel that anyone has met any of these categories. There are limitations for each project. You will see these on the rubric. They are about word limits, time limits, and size. All rubrics have the following criteria: historical argument, theme, research, sources, historical content, perspectives, historical accuracy, significance in history, and citations. Depending on the type of project that students have created, there are specific rules about written material or audio and visuals. There are technical rules based on the type of project, and then all students are evaluated on their student voice throughout their project. Evaluation resources. For each category, there is a specific rubric that judges will be using. Each rubric has a level of achievement, the criteria that gives you the specific details of how to evaluate it, with a descriptor of each characteristic that you're looking for, a section for written comments, and a checklist of rules compliance to go through. Here are some judging tips to consider. Give yourself time to evaluate the projects and be thorough. Be aware of topic bias. Just because a topic a child has selected is interesting to you does not mean that their research is better than a topic that you are less interested in. You can review projects in any order that you see fit. Something that is helpful for me is to look at the process paper, then the project, then the annotated bibliography. Remember that the historical quality categories of the rubric are weighted more heavily than the clarity of the presentation. When providing feedback, please make sure that it's actionable. We want feedback to be thorough and constructive so that the student can improve their project, especially if they are moving on to the state level competition. Once judging is ready to go in zFairs, I will send an email to all judges. Be on the lookout for an email with all the materials so that you can begin when you see fit. Here's a few tips about offering feedback to students. Start by offering praise. What has the student done well and why? Be sure to always give an area of improvement. Even in projects that you are very impressed by, please give students actionable feedback based on the rubric categories. Please use clear language. Remember that our students are young. They are 11 to 17 years old, and we want them to be able to make improvements to their project based on your words. It's okay to ask students questions to get them to think about changes they may make to their project. I'm hopeful that judges will focus on the categories in the rubric of historical argument, theme, and significance in history. These are categories of the rubric that if students have done exceptional on, they have a greater chance of advancing throughout the competition. And I've said this before, but remember that your feedback should help them prepare and improve before the state competition or before they enter the contest again next year. Okay. So let's do a little practice, and you guys, we'll just do it whole group. You can drop it in the chat. So I want you to think about what feedback we might give this student, strengths and areas of improvement, specifically for significance in history. So the significance in history part of the rubric, and this will be on all categories, all projects, to get the highest points, Students need to discuss the impact of the topic the impact of the topic is consistently analyzed in the conclusion. So I have an example for you, right? Remember that the theme is revolution, reaction, reform. And the exhibit that the students have created is the role of women in the Revolutionary War. Their thesis is, although women were not allowed to serve as soldiers, they played vital roles in the American Revolution by acting as spies, managing farms and businesses, supporting the army, which helped the colonies gain independence, right? So that's their thesis. Now, we want to know, have they consistently analyzed, has the impact of women in the Revolutionary War been consistently analyzed in their conclusion? So here's their conclusion. In conclusion, women's contributions to the American Revolution were essential to both winning the war and shaping the future of the U.S. In the short term, women's efforts as spies, managers of farms and businesses, and supporters of the army helped sustain the colonies during the fight for independence. In the long term, their expanded roles during the Revolution challenged traditional gender expectations and laid the groundwork for future debates about women's rights, proving that women's participation was a turning point in American history. So take a sec, read that over again. What written feedback would you give this group or this student? What strengths do you find in their significance in history? What might they improve?
May I say something?
Yeah.
I would say more so as a area of strength for feedback. I would more so of what areas of improvement with this. Yes, the thesis is nice to an extent, but I would just ask, where's this information coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no source of citation to let me know that this information came from you know, a reliable source.
Okay.
In a
Okay.
sense.
And that would definitely be a good interview question, right? What sources help them reach their thesis. And keep in mind, everybody, that in-text citations are not required on the topics. So that is something you might have to ask students when you do your interview with them.
Agnes,
Yeah.
in a lot of the projects I was grading for my students, I would say half of them kept mentioning Turning Point. And, I said, I would ask kids in the class, I said, well, what's the theme? And, kids mentioned revolution, reaction, reform. I said, then why are we talking about Turning Point? That was 2024 or 2023.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's fair, right? In I think the use of the term like turning point is fine, right? And everybody, I think that might be this year's issue, is because students are choosing, like, say, the American Revolution, they just automatically assume that they're covered for the theme, where they really, I think that's a valid piece of feedback, right? How can you expand your conclusion to include reference to the revolution or the reform that women created?
Yeah, I mean, if they had changed the wording, it would have been perfect.
Mhm.
And I do agree with you that because revolution is in the title of the event, they're making the assumption that they're covered or that they have met that requirement.
Mhm.
They had talked about how their participation in the war was revolutionary to the ideas of women and their place, and the fact that women shouldn't have been involved in the fighting of wars, and put it in that and coached it in those terms, and how they laid the groundwork or the framework for women um, uh, demanding participation
Mhm.
and a more active role then they would have made it. But there's
Yeah,
a mention here.
I think that's valid, right? Um, and Vanessa mentioned in the chat, focus on how the roles of women led to reform, right?
Yes, and
Yeah,
that thing that I thought too, Agnes, that if reform can be a part of it, then it needs to be mentioned. So I agree with Vanessa that, they have the wording here, but they're not using those theme words.
yeah. And Lorinda's saying similar, right? Revolution has changed. They do mention the change, but include more about reform and the significance of that reform, right? Mm-hmm. Direction would help raise the score. Yeah, yeah, I agree, Alexis. That's a good point, Pearl. And I think either of those definitions, she's talking about how revolution can mean different things, right? I think both of those are valid, but students need to be very explicit in their work, like everybody else is saying. Make sure the judges and the readers, anybody viewing your project, understands, right? And that's a valid feedback, right? Make sure viewers of your project understand can see your understanding of revolution or your understanding of reform. um, to me, I focused a little bit on this last sentence. And you'll see once you start seeing projects, students' conclusions might be this short, but they usually have a decent amount of text on short-term impact, long-term impact. And obviously, we don't see this student's whole project, but I would want to ask them more about, instead of just mentioning challenging gender roles and expectations and future debates, give me a concrete example from your research. Give me a primary source. Make a connection to something that's going on today, because that's showing me you're analyzing that impact, right? Don't just tell me it laid the groundwork for future debates. Well, how do you know that, right? What future debates actually exist because of these revolutionary women? And it's a fine balance, right? You saw in the limitations, every project type has a word limit, every project. So it can be challenging when we want them to add more detailed explanations, fitting in some of those details. But here, I would rather see detailed examples of the long-term impact in modern society than just a kind of generalized sentence. And all I would write for that is, can you add specific evidence of the impact on the debate over women's rights, like, or what modern issue can you connect to about traditional gender expectations? Okay. And positives, I think it's a very clear thesis. It's laid out, and they stick to it. I think we're all agreeing that the theme is a little bit more an issue, and the analysis of the impact is the issue.
So how would you rate this on that scale?
Oh, that's a good question. What category would I give it? Anybody have an opinion? I feel like I'm in between mostly and somewhat. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it honestly, you guys, all of the rows, all of the categories, it's actually hard to isolate them. You need to see the student's whole project. So if they had a chunk on their exhibit that had like some more details about the short-term impact and the long-term impact, I would go to mostly. Yeah. But if this was it, if this was their only conclusion, I would go somewhat. NHD has released a policy on AI that will be linked in the slides. There is no one way to effectively detect AI in student work. The best approach is to ask questions in the interview process. And also, we want to believe what students are saying. If students have said that they used AI, check the NHD document. Is it an authorized one? If students do admit to using AI, don't offer criticism or feedback right then and there in their interview. Please save that for your written commentary. Training videos are linked in the attached slides, and we recommend that judges watch them to either refresh their memory or get a better understanding of judging before the contest. If you are a new judge, please watch videos 1 through 4, and everyone should watch videos 5 through 11. You having a great understanding of the judging process is imperative for us to have a successful contest and to best prepare our students for the next level of competition. Conducting interviews. Please remember that students will be nervous when they enter their interview. Please welcome them, introduce yourself, have them introduce themselves to begin the process. Try to include all students if you are interviewing a group. We ask that you limit the interviews. The slides say 5 to 7 minutes. About 10 minutes is probably your max amount of time. Allow the student to do most of the talking. Save your comments and advice for your written commentary. If you enter your interview room and you notice that you have a relationship with a student, you know the student in some way, please let me know when that happens. When you are interviewing, please start with simple questions to make the student feel comfortable. And we'll go over some possible interview questions in a moment. Some things we'd ask you not to do with students is to tell them their ranking. Don't lecture them about their topic or your knowledge or any mistakes that they may have made. Don't ask students where they go to school or who their teacher is. And students really should not be presenting their project to you. They should be having a discussion about the creation of their project and their experience making it. The exception to this is performances. If you are judging performances, students will put on their show for you. Here's some suggested questions, and this will be provided on the day of interviews. Some questions to start with. How do you choose your topic? What made you interested? How does it fit the theme? Those are things that students can probably answer right away and will make them feel comfortable to start. Then dig deeper and ask them about their sources, ask them about the relevancy of their topic, why people should learn about it, any changes or challenges they had to deal with when making their project. And then I like to always close my interview with asking them if there is anything that they want to talk about that we hadn't asked them yet. Just for your information, once interviews are finished and judges do the final ranking, we ask that judges don't report that to anyone except for me or a member of my social studies team. We will publish everything on March 2nd, sending an email to the teachers, to the participants, and then posting them on the History Day website. If you are a judge but also a teacher, please don't ask your fellow judges about rankings. If you are new to zFair, the following slides will show you how to use the website. Firstly, make sure you're on the Prince George's County History Day contest website, not the state contest or another county's website. You're going to create your judging account by clicking on Create Account and then click Judge. It's going to give you questions to answer just like any other account. Fill in the ones that have an asterisk. The email confirmation may take a moment, but once you do that and get the email, you can continue with your registration. Fill in your profile with your password and any other information it asks for. And then when you fill out your judging profile, it's going to ask you which categories you would like to judge the most. I will try to give everyone the category that they choose. It's not always possible, but I will do my best. Please mark if you have judged before. and agree to the terms. There may be additional questions. Please also answer those. If you are a teacher in the system, please check yes for that question and enter your school, even if you don't have students participating in the contest. Your account is not done until you see this screen that says account created for. So please make sure you go through all of the questions. Once I've made the groups and assigned you to a project category, you will log into the same website and you'll see a judging tab, and you're going to click on Judging Portal. Once you're in the portal, everything's pretty much on one screen. You just have to keep scrolling down. At the top, you will see your name and email along with your fellow judges' names. Judge number 1, please reach out by starting an email to talk about when you will rank for round 1. Performance judges may have multiple groups. So this is a screenshot of how that will look. Most other categories, you will just have the one group. The location will be for Kenmore, even for the virtual one. So keep in mind, round 1, feedback and ranking is virtual. Don't worry about that location. As you scroll down the page, you'll start to see the project. So it'll tell you the division that you have. Senior are the high schoolers, juniors are the middle schoolers, the category that you are evaluating, and then underneath it will give you the actual projects. Here's the blue button that says View and Evaluate. Once you click on that, it's going to open up the evaluation sheet, and it looks like the rubric that you'll complete with toggle buttons to select each level. At the top is the link to the students' PDFs or links to their projects. Those are on that first page and also on the pop-up page. Underneath the rubric categories are the compliance rules, where you check yes or no. If a student does not provide, say, a word count, one of the questions is it under the required amount of words? Put no, don't have to count it yourself. Put no, and then put a note next to it that says word count not provided. At the very bottom of the page, you're going to see 2 boxes where you can enter text. The top box is what, once it's published, students will be able to see. That is hidden by me until after the contest on February 26th, so students will not be able to see that right away. And then the pink box is just for you and your fellow judges. You do not have to put anything in the pink box if you don't want to. And when you finish adding your notes, you can save, which is the darker blue box. That'll save it for your viewing. If you click the light blue box that says save and share with team, your other judges will be able to see it. You still can edit no matter which box you click. So I usually click that light blue box so my fellow judges can see what I've been working on. Once you're back on that main page of the judging portal, you can actually see whether your teammates have started and can look at the comments that they've made, and you can see if they've finished. You'll notice on the left that Ina is in progress and not started the other 2 judges. And then on the right, you can see that she has finished and you can view her work. The flag shows that a student has a rule violation. It's just one of those, maybe they didn't put their word count or maybe their video is too long. It's not something that disqualifies a student or anything very, very serious. It just lets you know that they have not complied with all of the rules. Judge number 1, we ask that they enter in the rankings for their group. So by February 11th, everyone will have entered, and this is for round 1, everyone will have entered their feedback and gone through the rubric. The rubric does not get added up for you by the website. You still have to determine who did the best. So you'll need to communicate either via email. Some people, if it's very close, want to discuss it, have a Zoom. Either way is fine. Once you've decided as a group, this is number 1, number 2, number 3, you've gone through all the rankings, and all projects get a rank. Even if they're, 6 projects, you'll rank 1 through 6. Judge number 1 will have a button that says submit ranking, that they'll click on that. And then it'll pop up a screen with the numbers, the project numbers, and they'll enter who's number 1, who's number 2, and then click submit ranking. Once they've submitted that, in the pop-up screen, back on the main screen, there's a submit ranking button and a submit to NHD button. The submit ranking button is going to pop that box back up where you can put the ranking in. The submit to NHD, once you click that, you're telling me that you're finished, and I'll be able to see in zFairs that your group has done. You won't be able to edit once you click this, but I can always undo that for you. Just reach out and send an email. Once you've gone through this video and the slides that are attached, please email me if you have any questions. I'm happy to help. And your next steps, if you haven't done so already, you're going to go to the Prince George's County History Day website and create your account. The directions will be attached in the slides. We ask that you watch the videos that I mentioned on slide 22 to make sure you're familiar with the process. And then just be on the lookout for your assignments. Round 1, you will get an email by the 4th of February. Round 2, you'll get an email by the 16th. If I can send them earlier, I will. And then my round 1 people, don't forget that you'll need to meet with your judging team if you're going to meet virtually via Zoom, or at least communicate with them via email by the end of the day on the 12th. Thank you everybody for supporting Prince George's County History Day by judging for our contest. I look forward to working with you.